Marketing Officer for The Gathering Place. Chris, The Gathering Place is a really unique nonprofit in our area. Can you kind of just give a general, maybe history and idea of what The Gathering Place is?
Yes, I'd love to do that, Brian, and thanks so much for the opportunity. So The Gathering Place actually opened its doors on January 3rd in 2000. So we've been around for a little bit. It was the brainchild of Eileen Safran, who who is our founder and served as our CEO until just recently. So the Gathering Place is really a concept with regards to helping individuals and families cope with the impact of a cancer diagnosis. And I would imagine that everyone who is listening to this interview can really appreciate that cancer touches everyone. And so for some people, it's profoundly impacted their lives. Perhaps they have been the individual that has cancer, or someone in their life has had cancer and they've been the person to support that individual with a cancer diagnosis. So it was Eileen's idea that really there would be a place where everybody who's dealing with a cancer diagnosis can come and get support, really, to be able to learn how to cope with the social, the emotional, the physical, and the spiritual impact of that cancer diagnosis. And very important to Eileen and the people that helped her to found the Gathering Place is that everything would be provided free of charge, so that individuals would not have to worry about, can I afford the copay? Does my insurance cover this? So it's free of charge. Child care is provided, transportation is provided, and all types of programs to help individuals cope with the impact of cancer in their lives.
Wow. So The Gathering Place offers, like you said, a whole umbrella of resources and programs for folks. So let's just kind of start with the ones that are for people that are going through their cancer diagnosis. What kind of programs are available for them?
Sure. And I think one of the things that's important to note is that all of our programs and services are really geared towards the person diagnosed as well as for the family. So I don't know if there's some that are specific to the individual diagnosed with cancer, but I think probably one of the services that people really gravitate towards is working with our medical librarian. Because when people are diagnosed with cancer, they have so many questions about all the information that's being shared with them with regards to their diagnosis. Often they may be sitting with their doctor and the doctor says, these are 3 of your treatment options. Which would you like to go with? It's hard to make that decision as a person who's been diagnosed because you don't have the background and the knowledge, and you're just overwhelmed. So often people will come in and sit down with our medical librarian. She can help them sort through all of that information and make really informed decisions. We're not telling that person what to do, but sitting down with them and spending as much time as needed to help them sort through all of that information, and often giving them questions to go back and ask that physician with regards to those different treatment options, or sometimes helping to connect them with someone who has had that particular type of treatment that they're considering, so they can have a conversation and just ask questions. You know, what was the recovery like? Would you choose this same option again? But what we're really trying to do is meet the person where they are, and that means emotionally, physically, spiritually, and help them get acclimated to what we have to offer, so then they can make a determination based on really kind of where they are. So sometimes they might need support in, how do I tell my children that I have this cancer diagnosis? How are we going to cope as a family around this cancer diagnosis? What do I have to tell my employer about my cancer diagnosis? So it's really looking at the broad perspective for that person, and each individual is different. So one person might come in and they have lots of questions about the treatment options. One person might come in and they want to understand, how does nutrition impact this? Should I change how I eat? Some people are coming in and perhaps they have exercised for their entire life, and so they're trying to understand, what can I still do as I'm going through chemotherapy, or if I'm going through radiation, or if I'm going to lose my leg because I have a sarcoma, what kinds of things can I do? So it's really a wide range of services following that person from the time they're diagnosed throughout the continuum of that cancer journey.
So you said those are kind of the resources and programs geared toward the people that are specifically going through it. What would be the ones then for like the entire family or friends or whoever this person is going on the journey with that they're on?
Sure. I think for the person who is supporting a loved one, sometimes a support group can be very helpful because the person who's supporting a loved one wants to know what are the things that I can do to help my loved one? How do I manage the emotions, the fear, the anxiety that I'm experiencing as a caregiver or support person so that I can be there to support my loved one who's been diagnosed? As a parent, how do I help my children cope with the changes that are going to impact our family because dad or mom or a grandparent has been diagnosed with cancer? Oftentimes, individuals that are the support person or caregiver will also use our medical librarian because they want to understand the disease as much as possible so that they know how to advocate for their loved one or what kinds of additional questions should we be asking the physician. And so that comes in handy for the family. Oftentimes people will come and attend our lectures and workshops, and those lectures and workshops are opportunities to hear from physicians. And so they're learning about updates in treatment, and it's an opportunity to also ask questions of that physician. It's also an opportunity to come and learn about different ways of coping. They might come to a lecture on managing anxiety. Oftentimes our caregivers will come and speak with our registered dietitian because she's able to help individuals understand more about nutrition. How can we help to change the diet of our loved one, but also the entire family, so that it's something that's helping everyone? Sometimes that person is dealing with, the person diagnosed is dealing with an end-stage disease, perhaps, and so the caregiver is trying to understand how eating habits change, or how can I sometimes the question is, how do I get this person to eat more food? But it's not necessarily about eating more food, but how do I help this person to eat more healthy? And so it's not just talking to the registered dietitian, but we also offer hands-on cooking classes so that you're not being talked at, but you're being helped in learning how to change and create healthy lifestyle eating habits in the home.
Awesome.
So those are some of the resources. And again, a lot of the things that I've just mentioned is also something that the person's diagnosed. We encourage actually for the family to come and take those cooking classes together so that they can learn together, cook together, and then they can go home and practice what they've learned.
As someone who learns by doing, that sounds like a really great activity and option. That said, with the COVID outbreak, everybody's having to scramble and adapt. So how is the Gathering Place kind of adapting all these really neat programs and things it's doing to our new virtual reality?
Thanks for asking that question, Brian, because we call ourselves a caring community for those that are coping with cancer. And when you think about community, you think about people coming together and connecting. And so for us, it was, how can we make sure that we still have this community for people to connect with the staff, but also to connect with each other, because that's where a lot of learning takes place. And so what we very quickly figured out how to do is how to use GoToMeeting, Facebook Live, and Zoom to help bring all of those programs to our participants. So they're used to coming to the Gathering Place, and now we're coming to them by providing these programs where they can take advantage of them in their own home or work or wherever they actually might be. So support groups are a significant way for us to build community here at the Gathering Place. And so we actually provide all of those support groups now via GoToMeeting and Zoom. So people are coming together from their homes and still meeting and connecting with each other and helping provide support and to receive support and to just be able to talk not only about what it's like to cope with cancer, but what it's like to deal with the COVID-19 and the isolation that some people might feel, which can be very similar to the isolation that people feel when they're diagnosed with cancer, and trying to learn how to navigate through that. And so I think some of what happens in that support group is people are reminded of the tools that they use to navigate through cancer and how can you use those tools to navigate with what's happening with COVID-19. But those support groups are still meeting weekly. Some meet every month, some meet twice a month. And those support groups are being provided not just to adults, but we have a very robust family program. And so children and teens also have the opportunity to participate in their own support groups that are helping them cope with a family member's cancer diagnosis. So we're offering our exercise on Zoom and on GoToMeeting, and also we do Facebook Live. We have an exercise class on Monday mornings at 10 a.m. It's Zumba. And then on Wednesday and Friday at 12:30 p.m. we have a strength training exercise with one of our fitness trainers. And so the lectures and workshops that I mentioned, we're providing those in the evening and some on Saturdays, and we're still doing our hands-on cooking classes. So we have a registered dietitian who is explaining the recipes and actually demonstrating the recipe, and then giving people an opportunity to ask questions and talk about, why are you choosing to use this type of vegetable, and what are the nutrients in this vegetable, and how is it a cancer-fighting vegetable? So really every program that we have been offering here at the Gathering Place in Beechwood and Westlake, we are now providing virtually. So it's something we prefer, being able to connect with people in person, but what we are hearing from some of our participants who maybe live a little further distance from our Beechwood and Westlake location, or perhaps were too tired to drive to these locations because they were dealing with their treatment, or were concerned about not having transportation perhaps. This has made it easier for them to access some of our services. So we're looking at how we can continue to do some of this even when we're able to come back together face to face.
Kind of the silver lining in the crisis, I think, is everybody realizing how these virtual tools can allow folks that might not have had access to different services or activities can now be a part of that.
Exactly.
Like you said, that right now, I can only imagine the double whammy of isolation from going through that cancer diagnosis to, COVID, where we can't really see each other. To be able to transition the way you guys have is great. I jumped on the website and it's just a huge menu of the virtual options you just ran off. So the ease of access is right there.
Right.
So it was fantastic.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And I think, we've also, the good thing about GoToMeeting and about Zoom is that you do have the option to call in, and so that you can at least, even though you can't, if you don't have access to a computer or your Wi-Fi isn't as reliable as you would like for it to be, people can still call in and hear that information. And I think that's something for all organizations to consider and be aware of, and to make that known to the community that you're serving, because everybody doesn't have equal access to various resources. So that's really important. And there are some people who don't feel comfortable using this type of platform. And so we are still available to people on the phone. And we actually have people calling us every day to ask questions, to get information, or sometimes just to talk with one of our staff so that they can get information about how to cope with the changes that are going on in their life as they go through that cancer diagnosis, or their loved one goes through that cancer diagnosis.
And then, another component of the whole social service TV thing was also connecting people looking to make an impact and looking to help out.
Yes.
So what volunteer opportunities are at the Gathering Place, kind of non-crisis, and then what might be available right now in this interesting time we're in?
Right. So I think, the Gathering Place relies very heavily on volunteers. We can't even imagine functioning without our volunteers, because they are so amazing and provide so many important services. So there are 21 staff here at the Gathering Place and about 350 volunteers. And before COVID, they were doing everything from greeting participants at the front desk to answering our phones and working in our garden that we have in our Beechwood location to helping with fundraising, doing data entry, working in our children's program where they play a very integral role. And so right now, of course, since we're not here, we don't have our volunteers in-house, but they have been still very helpful. So one of the things that our new CEO, Michelle Seranian, asked us to do as we closed our doors was to reach out to our participants. And so we pulled together all the participants that have been coming to the gathering place in the past 6 months. And so that was over 2,000 people. And so our staff and our volunteers were making calls just to check in and touch base. Our volunteers are making reminder calls to our participants because there's so much going on that even when someone has signed up for a program, sometimes they need that reminder that, hey, that program is coming up tomorrow. And so our volunteers are making phone calls. One of the areas where we really miss our volunteers is our garden because they water our pots. And so we were in a meeting yesterday and we were seeing some of those pots looking a little droopy. So it's like, oh my gosh, we need to make some adjustments and make sure we're taking over that role. But our volunteers play a very important role. And we just had a significant event for us called Race for the Place that happened on June 7th that we usually hold at Beechwood Place on National Cancer Survivors Day, which is the first Sunday in June. And we have about 4,000 people that show up to participate and probably about 150 volunteers that are on site that day and helping leading up to the race. And so since we had to go virtual this year, our volunteers again played a critical role in helping to spread the word about the race, get people excited about the race, using their social media, reaching out to family and friends to ask them to support the race. And then we actually did have a parade so that we could still come together, but in our cars and celebrating National Cancer Survivors Day. So our volunteers were in the parade. Some of them showed up at the gathering place and were physically distanced along the street outside of the gathering place with signs celebrating National Cancer Survivors Day. So while they haven't been able to come in, and we miss them greatly because they are amazing and wonderful and just very kind and lovely, they have still been able to assist us in various ways. And so our volunteer group, our volunteer corps is very important to us. And so we're always interested in volunteers being a part of the gathering place. One of the really significant ways that they help the gathering place is to go out into the community. So just like how, Brian, you were going to have this wonderful outreach event to educate people about resources, we have volunteers who go out and do that. They staff a table at a health fair and provide information and literature about the gathering place so that people can learn about our resource. So we look forward to finding more opportunities to do that as we navigate kind of like this new normal for right now.
So if someone wanted to volunteer, would they just call the office? Is there like a registration site on the website?
So there is a packet of information that people would fill out, and what our volunteer coordinators ask people to do is to email them or to actually just call the gathering place, 216-595-9546, and those volunteer coordinators will talk with the individual, find out what their interest is, and then talk about what opportunities that we have that might fit that person's interest. And sometimes people will say, well, do I have to have had cancer or know someone that has had cancer? And the answer is no, that's not a requirement. But I also note that probably there aren't too many people that don't know someone who has had cancer, but it's not a requirement. It's just a desire to help and to be able to share the expertise that you have.
Awesome. And then you said you provide all the services for free. So if someone wanted to give to the gathering place, what's the best way to do that? To send in a check? Is there a site or page on the website?
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you for asking that question, because we have been 100% privately funded since our doors open. So we greatly depend on the generosity of the community. And so our donors have been spectacular to the gathering place. And so I appreciate you asking that, especially during this time when we know that it can be challenging for nonprofits because people are being laid off. And so we appreciate all the support that people are able to still provide to us. So people can send in a check to the gathering place, and our address is on our website, which is www.touchedbycancer.org. If you choose to donate online or electronically, which some people do like to do, you can You can donate right there on our website, www.touchedbycancer.org, and there's a donate button at the top of the screen, and you can just click that and you can enter your credit card and we're good to go.
Awesome. So is there anything else you wanted to let people know about the gathering place that I might not have asked about or I missed?
No, first of all, Brian, again, I just really appreciate this opportunity. We know that there are so many people that are dealing with a cancer diagnosis, and we know that it's scary, that it's overwhelming, that it can disrupt the normal process of our life, because all of a sudden we're dealing with treatment, having to navigate the emotions, also how it changes and that perhaps people can't continue to work. So there's so many different ways that cancer impacts an individual and that person's family. And we just want to make sure people know that the gathering place is here, and that even though our doors are closed because we are concerned about people's safety, that we are still here providing programs and services. I do want to mention that every Saturday at 10:30 a.m. we have our welcoming orientation on Zoom, so that people can learn about the gathering place. They can connect with a staff person. We can navigate them through our website so they understand how to use it and how to register for programs. And so please call us 216-595-9546 so that we can assist you, or go to our website, touchedbycancer.org, and take a look at all of the services that are free of charge to you and your family and friends.
Awesome. Well, on behalf of the community, I just want to thank you guys for the awesome work you're doing and for really filling a hole that seems like it really needed filled, especially giving folks the opportunity to come and just talk to someone and process about their options and what's going on. That sounds like really amazing work, and thank you for doing it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And again, thank you for this opportunity and for what you're doing to help educate the community about all the various resources that are still out here in the community.
Well, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.